These are the facts about one of America's most persistent military legends, a story that began with a single troubled man's letters and grew into a conspiracy theory that's captivated audiences for over 70 years. This is the truth behind the USS Eldridge and the Philadelphia experiment. On October 28, 1943, according to legend, the USS Eldridge vanished from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard only to reappear moments later in Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away. Sailors were allegedly found embedded in the ship's metal hull, others went insane, and some simply disappeared forever. The US Navy had supposedly achieved the impossible: invisibility, teleportation, and time travel all in one catastrophic experiment. There's just one problem with this story. The USS Eldridge was never in Philadelphia that day. In fact, it was never in Philadelphia at all. The USS Eldridge was a Cannon-class destroyer escort, hull number DE-173, named after Lieutenant Commander John Eldridge Jr., a naval aviator killed in the Solomon Islands campaign. The ship's keel was laid down on February 22, 1943, at the Federal Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Newark, New Jersey. She was launched on July 25th and commissioned on August 27, 1943, under the command of Lieutenant C.R. Hamilton. From the moment she entered service, the Eldridge's movements were meticulously documented in official Navy records. After commissioning, she remained in New York waters and Long Island Sound until September 16th, when she sailed to Bermuda for training exercises. The ship spent nearly a month in Bermuda waters conducting sea trials before returning to New York on October 18th. And here's where the legend crashes into reality. On October 28, 1943, the exact date when the Philadelphia experiment allegedly occurred, the USS Eldridge was sitting safely in New York Harbor, preparing to escort convoy UGS-23 to North Africa. She had never been to Philadelphia, would never go to Philadelphia, and according to her skipper's later televised interview, never went to Philadelphia at all. So how did a ship that was never in the right place become the centerpiece of one of the most enduring conspiracy theories in American military history? The answer lies with a troubled merchant mariner named Carl Meredith Allen. Born on May 31, 1925 in Springdale, Pennsylvania, Carl Allen was described by his family as brilliant but unstable, a drifter who never held any job for long and was known as a master leg puller. During World War II, Allen served aboard the merchant vessel SS Andrew Furuseth, and it was from this ship that he claimed to witness the impossible. Allen used multiple aliases throughout his life, including Carlos Miguel Allende, Colonel Carlos Miguel Cristofero Allende, and when writing to rocket engineer Werner von Braun, Dr. Karl Mirdit Allenstein. This pattern of assumed identities and grandiose titles would become central to understanding the man behind the myth. The Philadelphia experiment story didn't emerge during the war or even shortly after. It lay dormant for over a decade until 1955, when astronomer and UFO enthusiast Morris Ketchum Jessup published The Case for the UFO Unidentified Flying Objects. Jessup, who held a master's degree in astronomy from the University of Michigan, had abandoned his doctoral work in 1931 and spent most of his career as a car parts salesman and photographer. In late 1955, someone sent an anonymous package marked Happy Easter to the U.S. Office of Naval Research. Inside was a copy of Jessup's book, but this wasn't an ordinary copy. The margins were filled with handwritten notes in 3 different shades of blue ink, appearing to document a conversation between 3 individuals, only one of whom was identified by name: Jemmy. The annotations referenced advanced alien technologies, secret government experiments, and detailed knowledge of UFO propulsion systems. The notes were written as if the annotators had inside knowledge of extraterrestrial visitation and government cover-ups. The Office of Naval Research, puzzled by this unusual correspondence, filed it away. Then, in January 1956, Carl Allen began writing letters directly to Morris Jessup. Using both his real name and his Carlos Miguel Allende alias, Allen spun an extraordinary tale. He claimed that while serving aboard the Andrew Furuseth in 1943, he had witnessed a U.S. Navy experiment that made the destroyer escort USS Eldridge completely invisible. According to Allen's letters, the experiment was based on Albert Einstein's unified field theory. Einstein had indeed worked as a consultant for the Navy's Bureau of Ordnance during 1943 to 1944, but his research focused on explosives, not invisibility. Allen claimed the experiment had gone horribly wrong, with crew members embedded in the ship's metal structure and others driven insane by the experience. Allen's account was vivid and detailed. He described a greenish fog that surrounded the ship during the invisibility experiment, sailors who materialized inside bulkheads, and men who went completely bananas from the psychological trauma. He claimed the ship had been teleported from Philadelphia to Norfolk and back again in a matter of minutes. Morris Jessup was fascinated. Here was potential proof that the advanced technologies he'd theorized about in his UFO research were not only possible but had been achieved by the US military. The correspondence between Jessup and Allen continued, with Allen providing increasingly elaborate details about the experiment and its aftermath. The story took another bizarre turn when the Varro Manufacturing Corporation in Garland, Texas became involved. Company executives, intrigued by the annotated book, began producing mimeographed copies. What started as a dozen copies eventually became 127, distributed to select military and scientific personnel. These became known as the Varro edition, and their very existence seemed to lend credibility to Allen's claims. But Morris Jessup never lived to see his role in popularizing the Philadelphia experiment legend. On April 20th, 1959, he was found dead in his car in Dade County, Florida. A hose had been run from the exhaust pipe into the rear window, filling the vehicle with toxic fumes. The death was ruled suicide, but conspiracy theorists would later claim Jessup had been silenced for knowing too much about government secrets. With Jessup gone, the Philadelphia experiment story might have faded into obscurity. Instead, it was about to explode into popular culture. In 1979, Charles Berlitz, author of the best-selling The Bermuda Triangle, teamed up with ufologist William L. Moore to publish The Philadelphia Experiment: Project Invisibility. The book claimed to be a factual account and expanded dramatically on Allen's original letters, incorporating tales of Einstein's unified field theories and government cover-ups. The book was a sensation, but by then, cracks were already showing in Allen's story. In 1969, Allen himself had confessed that the entire Philadelphia experiment was a hoax. Then he recanted. Then he confessed again. This pattern of confession and recantation became Allen's trademark for the rest of his life. In 1980, researcher Robert Gurman published a devastating expose in Fate magazine. Gurman had discovered that Carl Allen was actually a family friend and had interviewed Allen's relatives. They described him as a creative and imaginative loner with a documented history of mental illness. Allen's own family characterized him as someone who fabricated stories and pulled elaborate pranks. But the most damning evidence against the Philadelphia experiment came from the people who should have known best, the crew of the USS Eldridge themselves. Ship records confirmed that Carl Allen had indeed served aboard the SS Andrew Furuseth during the relevant time period, lending some credibility to his claimed position as a witness. However, the logbooks revealed a crucial detail. The Furuseth and the Eldridge were never in the same port at the same time. Lieutenant Junior Grade William S. Dodge, master of the Andrew Furuseth in 1943, categorically denied that he or his crew had observed any unusual events. The archives found no evidence that the two ships had ever been in Norfolk simultaneously, destroying Allen's claim of witnessing the experiment from the deck of his merchant vessel. In March 1999, surviving members of the USS Eldridge crew held their first reunion in 53 years in Atlantic City. 15 elderly veterans gathered to reminisce about their wartime service, and inevitably they were asked about the Philadelphia experiment. Their response was a mixture of amusement and exasperation. The only part of the book I think is true is the part about the crew being a little crazy, said Ed Tempany, 75, of Carteret, New Jersey, referring to the Berlitz-Moore book. Mike Perlstein, another crew member, told reporters, "I tell them I know nothing about it. I've seen the movie and it's a good movie, but there's no truth to it." The veterans confirmed what Navy records had always shown. The Eldridge had called on many East Coast ports during the war, but never Philadelphia. They couldn't explain why their ship had been chosen from thousands of wartime vessels to be the centerpiece of an invisibility legend. As crew member Davis put it, "We can't wait to put it to rest, but we can't because it keeps coming up." So what really happened in 1943 that might have inspired Allen's elaborate fiction? The answer lies in a classified but entirely conventional naval procedure called degaussing. During World War II, German U-boats and mines used magnetic sensors to detect Allied ships. To counter this threat, the Navy developed a system where electric current was passed through cables wrapped around a ship's hull, neutralizing its magnetic signature. Researcher Jacques Vallée uncovered evidence of degaussing operations conducted on ships docked near the Eldridge in 1943. Edward Dudgeon, who served as an electrician on the USS Engstrom, confirmed that both his ship and the Eldridge had been fitted with these electromagnetic systems. The procedure could be said to make a ship invisible, but only to magnetic sensors, not to the human eye. The degaussing process produced several effects that might have seemed mysterious to an untrained observer. High-frequency generators created corona discharges, electrical phenomena that could produce an eerie glow around the ship. In certain atmospheric conditions, this might appear as the greenish fog Allen described. The powerful electromagnetic fields could also cause disorientation in sensitive individuals, potentially explaining reports of crew members becoming ill or confused. As for the alleged teleportation between Philadelphia and Norfolk, Dudgeon explained that the Navy used inland waterways off-limits to civilian traffic. A ship could travel between these ports via protected canals in about 6 hours, rather than the 2 days required for the open ocean route. To civilian observers, a ship might seem to vanish from one port and mysteriously appear in another. The Office of Naval Research, which had received Allen's original annotated book, issued a definitive statement in September 1996. ONR has never conducted any investigations on invisibility, either in 1943 or at any other time. ONR was established in 1946. In view of present scientific knowledge, ONR scientists do not believe that such an experiment could be possible, except in the realm of science fiction. The statement noted that Einstein's unified field theory was never completed and that the supposed invisibility technology violated known physical laws. A comprehensive search of military archives revealed no documents supporting the existence of Project Rainbow, the alleged code name for the Philadelphia experiment. The only Project Rainbow in Navy records referred to war plans for defeating the Axis powers. Carl Allen died on March 5, 1994 in Greeley, Colorado, taking the truth about his motivations to the grave. By then, his story had taken on a life of its own. The 1984 movie The Philadelphia Experiment starring Michael Pare introduced the legend to a new generation, followed by a sequel in 1993 and a remake in 2012. Television shows, documentaries, and countless internet videos have kept the story alive. The USS Eldridge itself met a far more mundane fate than the legend suggests. After the war, she was placed in reserve on June 17, 1946. In 1951, she was transferred to the Greek Navy under the Mutual Defense Assistance Act, where she served as the Leon for over 4 decades. The ship was finally decommissioned on November 5, 1992, and sold for scrap in 1999 to a Piraeus-based company. The Philadelphia experiment has even found new life in modern popular culture. The Disney Plus series Loki featured the USS Eldridge appearing in an alternate dimension, introducing the legend to Marvel fans. The story continues to resurface in documentaries, podcasts, and online discussions, proof of its enduring appeal. Why has this debunked story maintained such staying power? The Philadelphia experiment taps into several powerful themes that resonate with public imagination: government secrecy, the dangers of unchecked scientific experimentation, and the possibility that reality is far stranger than we're told. It emerged during the early Cold War period when Americans were genuinely concerned about secret weapons programs and cover-ups. The story also benefits from just enough factual elements to seem plausible. Einstein did work for the Navy, the USS Eldridge was a real ship, degaussing technology did exist, and the military did conduct classified experiments during World War II. These kernels of truth provide a foundation for the elaborate fiction that Carl Allen constructed. And here's the thing, the Philadelphia experiment represents a perfect conspiracy theory. It's impossible to definitively disprove because any absence of evidence can be explained by the cover-up. When Navy records show the Eldridge was never in Philadelphia, believers claim the documents were falsified. When crew members deny the experiment occurred, they're accused of being silenced or having their memories altered. The real USS Eldridge story is actually quite heroic, without any need for science fiction embellishment. After completing her training, the ship escorted vital supply convoys across the Atlantic to North Africa, helping sustain Allied forces in the Mediterranean theater. She later served in the Pacific, protecting American forces during the final push toward Japan. Like thousands of other ships in the U.S. Navy, the Eldridge and her crew served with distinction in humanity's greatest conflict. The men who served aboard the USS Eldridge were ordinary sailors doing an extraordinary job under wartime conditions. They faced real dangers from submarines, aircraft, and storms while escorting the merchant vessels that kept Allied armies supplied. Their actual service record stands as a testament to courage, professionalism, and dedication, qualities that need no enhancement from tales of science fiction experiments. Today, the Philadelphia experiment serves as a fascinating case study in how modern legends are born and spread. It demonstrates how a single individual with mental health issues and a talent for storytelling can create a narrative that captures public imagination and persists for decades. It shows how the desire to believe in hidden truths can overcome mountains of contradictory evidence. The story of Carl Allen and the Philadelphia experiment is ultimately a very human tale about the power of imagination, the appeal of conspiracy theories, and our eternal fascination with the unknown. While the USS Eldridge never achieved invisibility, teleportation, or time travel, the legend surrounding her has proven far more durable than the ship herself. The next time you encounter a story that seems too extraordinary to believe, remember the USS Eldridge. Sometimes the most compelling tales are the ones that never happened at all, and the most important truth isn't whether something occurred, but why we want so desperately to believe that it did.